The iconic Belgian racetrack Spa-Francorchamps was able to stage one more interesting race last weekend. Even after the conclusion, it became more controversial when the original race winner was stripped of his title. Race day was dry, but the qualifying was interrupted with the traditional Spa-Francorchamps rain, creating tougher conditions for the drivers. Throughout the race, Mercedes and McLaren fought very closely for the victory, and Ferrari was also in contention. We have a lot to discuss about the Belgian Grand Prix weekend, and this is our summarised race report. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. The first free practice session was totally dry, and all the teams used this opportunity to collect more data to make their final adjustments to their challenges. The Alpine team was running on a special Deadpool Wolverine livery this weekend, but Esteban Ocon had to spend more time inside the garage after a suspected water leak. FP1 ended without any major incidents, and Verstappen was able to top the timesheet. Piastri and Albon occupied the second and third spots of the timesheets. McLaren drivers started to unleash their true potential in FP2, topping the timesheets. The current championship leader Max Verstappen was in the third spot, behind Norris and Piastri. This session was also totally dry, without experiencing any interruptions from the rain. The dry climate in Spa ended when heading into FP3. Drivers had to do their final testing activities on wet tyre sets. A number of drivers went wider while cornering as they failed to understand the grip conditions of this wet Spa surface. Stroll experienced a big spin and gave a big kiss to a barrier, damaging his left front wheel. The session was red flagged for 10 minutes to clear the track after this incident. Even though the session was resumed, the rain intensified and teams decided to keep their cars inside their garages as a safety precaution. When there were 25 minutes left to end the session, race control sent the medical car to assess the nature of the racetrack. Then the session was red flagged as it was too wet to drive. When 2 minutes were left in the session, drivers were allowed to bring their cars to the track, allowing them to get an idea about how it was ahead of qualifying. Sainz lost control of his car and ended up in the gravel trap, clearly evidencing how wet it was. It was a wet qualifying session. Drivers had to set some fast laps on this slippery Spa-Francorchamps surface to reserve a better position in the starting grid. At the end of Q1, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Sargent and Zhou were the drivers who failed to cross the first hurdle. The wet nature of the track further continued. Drivers tried to set the fastest possible lap times with intermediate tyres to find a slot in Q3. After a very close battle, Sergio Perez was able to find a spot in Q3, recording the 10th fastest lap time of the session. Albon, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas and Stroll were the drivers who were eliminated at the end of Q2. At the start of Q3, a close battle was observed between Mercedes and McLaren drivers for the pole position. However, the two Red Bull drivers joined the party by setting two fast lap times. With the 10-place grid penalty which was set to be experienced by Max Verstappen, it was very important for him to record the best possible finish in the starting grid. Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc was able to break into the top, splitting the two Red Bull drivers. No one was able to challenge the lap times which were set by Verstappen and Leclerc in their final attempts. In the absence of Verstappen, pole position went to the Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc. The rest of the top 5 spots were occupied by Perez, Hamilton and Norris respectively. Oscar Piastri held the 6th spot on the timesheet, and he was followed by Russell, Sainz, Alonso and Ocon. As the pole sitter, Charles Leclerc got a good start to the race, and he was closely followed by Hamilton and Perez. Even before completing the first lap, Hamilton was able to improve his position up to second by overtaking both Piastri and Perez. It was an incredible first lap by the former world champion Hamilton. Just after 3 laps, Hamilton was able to attack the race leader Charles Leclerc with DRS, and he didn't experience any notable defense from the Ferrari driver. When the race was just 12 laps old, drivers started pitting their cars for a new set of rubber. When Hamilton entered the pit lane, Leclerc started leading the race again. Meanwhile, there was a tight battle between Russell and Piastri for the 10th spot after Piastri's pit stop, and the McLaren driver was able to overtake Russell after chasing him down for a brief moment. Within a gap of 1 lap, Piastri was able to hunt down Sergio Perez as well. On the 17th lap, Sainz went off the road and experienced a little drift on the gravel trap, but he cleverly managed the situation and rejoined the race without causing any major damage to his challenger. Russell started attacking Perez, who was running 4th on the 21st lap, and was able to complete a successful overtake with the assistance of DRS. Hamilton, who was now leading the race on the 27th lap, decided to enter the pit lane to take a fresher set of rubber, handing over the race lead to Oscar Piastri. At that moment, Russell was also requested from the engineer to think about one more pit stop. On the 31st lap, Russell was able to become the race leader, as Piastri also decided to enter the pit lane. Meanwhile, Lando Norris passed Perez into the 6th spot, and his next target was to hunt down Max Verstappen, who was in the other Red Bull. Oscar Piastri, who had been incredible from the start of the race, decided to attack Leclerc, who was running in 3rd on the 36th lap. The McLaren driver was with the DRS advantage, but Leclerc was not ready to hand over his position easily. They went side to side for a brief moment, but Piastri was able to complete his overtake successfully. On the 37th lap, Sainz made a successful overtake against the Red Bull driver Sergio Perez into the 7th spot. George Russell, who was leading the race on the 43rd lap, followed a one-stop strategy throughout the race, and his teammate Lewis Hamilton was in a different strategy while running 2nd. The greatest battle of the race started when Hamilton was able to close down the gap with his teammate in the latter part of the race. At one moment, the gap between these two drivers was reduced to 0.419 seconds. However, George Russell didn't allow any opportunity for his teammate to overtake him within those 2 laps and successfully crossed the line as the winner by maintaining a 0.526 second lead over his teammate. Hamilton and Piastri crossed the line as 2nd and 3rd respectively, occupying the rest of the podium spots. Charles Leclerc completed the race as 4th, and Verstappen was able to improve his position up to 5th after starting the race as 10th on the starting grid after the penalty. The rest of the point-offering spots of the race were occupied by Norris, Sainz, Perez, Alonso and Ocon. But even after the podium ceremony, George Russell was disqualified as his car was found to be underweight. This was a big heartbreak for both Russell and his Mercedes team after such a strong race weekend. After this incident, Russell's teammate, Lewis Hamilton, took the victory of the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. Talking about this unexpected scenario, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff said, "We have to take it on the chin. A mistake has happened, and a 1-2 would have been a great result going into the summer break. We have to learn from that. As a team, there were positives, but for George, it's a massive blow for it to be taken away. He is going to win more," Toto added, further improving the confidence of the Mercedes driver. Anyhow, the Mercedes team appear to have solved a majority of their issues in their challenger, and now they are in a position where they can directly challenge any of the rival teams. These latest developments within the championship are really good, as fans are now watching the sport with more interest. Now it's time for the summer break, and all the teams will surely come to the Dutch Grand Prix with more improvements after 3 weeks. What do you think about the current position of the Red Bull team? Will they be able to secure the 2024 championship by successfully managing the challenge from the Mercedes and McLaren teams in the second half of the 2024 season? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.